Welcome to the first official episode of the Interventions Podcast. If you watch the trailer, remember an intervention is a divine encounter with yourself, sometimes an all-out confrontation, so you can help you stop getting in your own way. So today, for this first official episode, I'm talking about your role as an incubator in your life. I promise it'll all make sense in a minute. I plan to keep this podcast short and sweet because today is the beginning of conversations about how you can shift from getting in your own way versus creating or using your power to create this cozy, welcoming environment that anything you want, you can attract into it, nurture it, accept it, recognize it, and live your best life. Because some of you, for real, are out here right now. You look like Wile E. Coyote chasing after the Roadrunner. The things that you say you want are running away from you full speed, at least so it seems. You got the whole Acme box of tricks and you still haven't caught up to this Roadrunner. There is a way to stop the chase and get into a position where you've transformed yourself and your environment in such a way that you actually attract what you want and you recognize it, you nurture it, you maintain it, you create a space for things to happen as opposed to you toiling away, chasing things that feel like they're running away from you. So back in November of 2020, I did a webinar. It was about an hour and it was for adult women who wanted to heal their relationships with their mothers. Very challenging topic area that I have a very empathetic heart for after spending the decade healing my relationship with my mom. And in that webinar, I spoke about what an incubator does. I made this analogy first there. I mean, think of an incubator. First of all, if a baby is born prematurely, what happens? They take that baby and put it into an incubator. Because what will happen now is the incubator creates an environment that allows that child to finish cooking. That precious baby is undercooked. It needs to develop its organs, especially the lungs, and it needs a safe environment to do that. So it can come out of the incubator and thrive. That's what we want. We also see incubators in science. Think of the petri dish, where you rub some gook on some other gook. You place it into the incubator, and the incubator is where some things can grow and some things can't. And of course, what grows, you take an evaluation of. And I even count refrigerators as incubators. And why is that? Because the truth is the refrigerator, when you put something in it, is there to make sure certain things don't thrive and don't grow. Because you don't want mold on your food, right? So you put it into the refrigerator because the environment in the refrigerator is set up for certain things to thrive and certain things to not. Now, I said all that to say, in the same way, you're an incubator, and how you adjust your dial, how you adjust your own dial, will always be the most powerful determining factor on how you experience life, how you achieve success, no matter what area of your life you're looking for success in. So let me think of a best way to say this. I want you to imagine yourself going to an amazing party. And I'm not talking about, some clubbed out, youthful party, where the punch is in the big trash can. Not that. I'm talking about an A-list party. The food is being served by the top 3 chefs in the nation. The music is being handled on 2 different levels by the top 2 DJs in the nation. Only the best international designers came in and created the most opulent space that you could ever imagine. I mean, Swarovski crystals lining and holding the curtains. 10-foot tall black satin curtains. Just a beautiful party overlooking the valley, overlooking the water. Beautiful swimming pool. It's just opulence personified. Now, imagine when you leave that party. It's the talk of the town. Everyone had an incredible time. Yet there's that one person, who said, that party was trash. Party was garbage. And you're like, excuse me? Were we at the same party? And they were like, I went up to one of the curtains and there was a single crystal missing from the tie back. Just horrible. That's not opulence. I thought these people had money. That person clearly walked in having intent, whether it was conscious or subconscious, to not enjoy that party. They came in with an energy and an attitude that didn't allow the most beautiful parts of that experience to even get in, because their thermostat, their dial was set to something else on their incubator. So they couldn't even nurture and accept and enjoy that moment. Now, I have a deeply personal example of how the idea of being an incubator has worked out in my life. When I healed my relationship with my mother, there were certain things I had to choose to believe. It was me changing the dial on my incubator. Because in that webinar that I told you about from November 2020, I actually said, listen, your mama did not give birth to you, and they took your beautiful behind little naked baby butt and put you in her arms, and she looks down at you and said, you know what? I want to screw this up. No, I just want to screw this up so badly that this baby, this child, has to grow up and heal from being my child. I want to screw it up that badly. Let's go for the gusto. Your mama didn't say that. I guarantee if your mother made an even attempt to raise you, she didn't say that. But sometimes when you're in the throes of a troubled relationship, you kind of perceive malice where there is none. Listen, your mother is a sentient being having a human experience and doing the best that she can with the resources she has. Financial resources, emotional, mental, psychological, all of the resources that she has. She did the best that she could with them. I had to begin to choose to believe that. So when I entered into conversations with my mother, instead of going in with the energy of just expecting something to go wrong or expecting her to come with, you know how you call it, here come that old BS again, I changed the dial. And boy, did that create a new environment for our relationship to live in. Did we never have another point of contention again? Of course we did. But what happened was there was a marked change when I made the decision alone, because see, we always think we need someone else to change. I need you to act right, do right, speak right, walk right in order for this to work. But that's just not true. You're responsible for the dial on your incubator. The environment that you create around yourself either attracts or repels. And you have to determine by results where you need to change that dial. Because back to my mom, listen, that was a huge turning point for us. When I stopped assuming malice and started having empathy and seeing her as this individual woman who was a woman before she was a mother, a woman with possibly many troubles, some of which I knew about and some I didn't. But I changed the dial and things changed. And what I'm telling you is you're an incubator and you're capable of doing the same thing when it comes to relationships or material things or goals or success. You are capable of changing the dial. See, you can't be, I hear it all the time, I'm a bad bee, I'm a queen, I'm a boss bee. Insert whatever women's empowerment of the term that you have. You can't be any of that when you haven't mastered yourself. Because the idea that others must change how they walk and talk and speak and choose and think in order for you to be all right is disempowering. That means you're floating in the wind of other people's choices. If you don't behave exactly perfectly, what's going to happen is now I'm not going to behave exactly perfectly, and I'm going to blame you for my energy and my choice. Very disempowering. You know what is powerful? When you stage an intervention with yourself and start asking yourself challenging questions that focus on your dial. What is the temperature in your incubator? Forget what's going on outside of it. Have you created an environment that is capable of attracting and nurturing what it is you said you wanted? And I will gladly send this word of caution. You know, it's very challenging to let go of the reasons we have for behaving badly. I know it for a fact. I'm going into this exchange and my back is up. I'm not going in good faith because she always gives me a problem. I refuse to be the bigger person in this particular situation. And here is the reason why things don't go well. That is a challenge that you're going to have to embrace, because just as others often feel justified in their role that they serve in conflict. We often feel justified in the role that we choose to serve in conflict. But this intervention in particular is about stepping back and removing the variable called the other person. This isn't about you being the bigger person. This isn't about you taking anybody's crap. This is about you showing a level of mastery over yourself, over your own emotions, over your own choices in such a way that empowers you to create a life that you're excited to live, a life full of peace, free of stress, and definitely not blowing in the wind because we think we're justified in reacting to others the way that we do. See, listen, I know for a fact it is uncomfortable to accept the idea that we're not always a victim just because we got hit when shots got fired. I'm going to say that again. I know it is uncomfortable to accept the idea that we're not always a victim just because we got hit when shots got fired. I mean, sometimes we provided the gun. Sometimes we gave them the bullets. And sometimes we just jumped in front of the bullets like some Captain Save-A-Ho and got hit. I said what I said. Now, over the years, I can think of 3 people in particular that I know deeply struggled with this. And I mean, their story of woe was highly convincing until you saw them in action. I mean, they came with the life is crappy, people are ugly, they couldn't catch a break, everyone's trying to hurt them or cheat them. And then you see them in action. I mean, sometimes when you come into their presence, you feel the positive energy leaving your body. Any kind of exchange with them, whether it's in person or on the phone or even through texting, it just feels depleting. They're impossible to please, and they're quick to be ugly towards others who are clearly trying to help or reason with them. I mean, their incubator temperature is set so hot, it's scorching in there. They're literally burning to ashes what they say they want because they're always on fire, scorching earth behind them. But that's an extreme example. Most of us are dealing with examples that aren't quite as dramatic, but still as problematic. Some of us are just one click of the knob away from creating an environment where we can have exactly what it is we said we wanted. Oh man, could you imagine being one adjustment away from what you say you want? If anything, if this message started out feeling challenging to you, it should feel good by now. Because what it's saying is, I have a lot more power than I understood I had. I've been sitting here waiting for somebody else to make an adjustment so I can be comfortable. And I'm just realizing the knob is in my hand. I can make an adjustment and change my whole experience. That should be good news. So why do we draw such sharp lines in the sand? I'm right, they're wrong. I'm good, they need to change. Why do we do that? Now, I've come to recognize that as the ego essentially protecting us from potentially inconvenient truths about our own mess, the storms that kind of rage inside of us. Because that same sand that we drew that line in is the same sand that we like to dig a hole in and bury all our pains, our traumas, our disappointments, our weaknesses, because that's easier, right? It's easier to bury that stuff and miraculously demand others change. It's easier to do that than for us to run, not walk, to the nearest therapist and work out our own BS. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I might have been being facetious for a moment, but there is some truth to that. Nagging a husband or criticizing your boss over cocktails at happy hour probably is a lot easier than getting transparent about the enormous bag of skeleton bones hanging out in your closet, right? And it's probably more fun too. But where does it get you? Where does keeping the focus outside of you instead of internally, where is that getting you? Because the truth is the environment that your incubator creates starts inside of you, right? Because if you haven't figured it out yet, your incubator setting, that dial that we keep talking about, it's attached to your mental and your emotional state. If there's a storm raging in you, well, the incubated space around you is a stormy place. If there's anger, confusion, insecurity, malice in you, that is the exact environment that exists around you. That's the setting on the dial. You cannot create order from chaos. If you don't love you, your incubator won't attract the love and support that you want. If you're not at peace, your incubator can't nurture and grow a peaceful existence with others. In fact, where peace does exist, you'll probably project your crap onto it and not even see you were the one who disturbed the peace. Because the setting on your incubator governs your experience. The environment you create around you that's coming from inside of you is what you get. It's what you attract. So now that a few shots have been fired, I suspect there are a few of you still here. And I did promise that this would be short and sweet, but I do want to leave you with homework because this podcast is going to hopefully be chock full of aha moments for you. Things that you needed to hear, things that you maybe heard before that didn't stick. But the truth is, hearing it is one thing, but having an actionable do, it's in the doing. So what I want you to do is take a durable issue that keeps popping up in your life, such as maybe you're always in conflict with the same person, whether it's your mom or a sibling or someone else. Or take a goal that you've been unable to achieve. Ask yourself, where is my dial set on when it comes to this person or this durable issue? And what kind of tweaks can I make to the environment I create around it? How can I change the dial to create an environment to win in this area? And I'm going to give you a perfect example from my past. Oh, this was several years ago, maybe almost a decade ago. So we were sitting around the table, my parents, my youngest son and I, and a celebrity had purchased a $60,000 motorized car for their 2-year-old. And my parents were like, you have to be kidding me. And they went on this tirade about wealthy people and how wasteful they are, essentially of questionable character. And it's funny because I realized I was kind of raised in that. And I had to question, how do I see wealthy people? Because I would love to join their ranks. One day I would like to be amongst the good company of the wealthy. But I'm sitting here now with my parents, listening to them talk, realizing I'm asking to join a population of people that I don't even have a positive view of. And I made an adjustment. I had an intervention right there in my head and made an adjustment immediately. And I spoke up and I said, listen, we don't know what it's like to have money like that. I believe this family was working on being billionaires if they weren't. I said, do you understand that $60,000 is a drop in their very large bucket? I said, and I think of the gifts that you've purchased for me. The first computer you bought me was $3,000 for the whole setup. I was like 14. I said, do you know, if you look at your income, that was the equivalent of them spending $60,000 on their child. I said, so what I don't want to do is make a villain out of a wealthy person because they made a decision with their resources and they did it out of love for their family. It felt powerful in that moment to stand up, have the intervention, and immediately flip a switch and give up that unhealthy belief about an entire population of people. And as a result of that, I believe that in my future, I will be able to join the ranks of the wealthy because I no longer have negative views of them floating around under the surface just because of some of the conditioning I was exposed to when it came to that population. All right. So, hey, thank you for hanging out, but I'm going to load you with the second part of your homework. Head over to the podcast page at hawabon.com and please leave some feedback on this episode. Do you agree we can change our dial and create an environment that attracts the things we want? Or is it just a bunch of malarkey? And don't forget, when you complete the form, you can opt in to join a discussion panel with me and other women on this topic. I hope you took something from this. I hope it's transformative for you. Until next time.